Hi, this lesson is from page 595 in your student book. The objective is that student will be able to find the measures of variation of a set of data. The essential question is, what do each of the measures of variation represent? All right, well, the first one I think you recognize already. Range is the difference between the greatest value and the least value in the data set. So, I don't know if you're familiar with the stem and leaf plot, but this first left column always represents the tens place, and this side, represents the ones place. And so here you would take the highest value and say that 92 is the highest, and then 72 is the lowest. And so your difference is a range of 20. The quartiles are values that divide the set of data into 4 equal parts. As you can see, quarts is usually referenced to 4, like quarter or quarts in a gallon. And so we're dividing into 4 equal parts. The median you're familiar with. And then the middle of the lower half of the data is called the lower quartile. The middle of the upper set of data is called the upper quartile. So you're not finding the mean, you're finding the median of both. So I just recopied it, and we would say that interquartile range is the difference between the upper quartile and subtract the lower quartile. So here we would say the interquartile range is 76 minus 38, which happens to equal 38. That was kind of interesting. But when you're comparing data and discussing data, you would sometimes, it's more accurate maybe to say what's the middle of the bottom half and the middle of the top half, because sometimes your highest value and your lowest value can be quite extreme. So sometimes it's a good judge, where do my middle 50% fall? And so the middle 50% would be between the lower quartile and the upper quartile. And then the lower 1/4 is down here, and the upper 1/4 is up here. But in many sets of data, you're mostly interested in where's the majority, the 50% in the middle. All right, so different measures of variation. When they ask you to find the measures of variation in your homework, I just wanted you to know what that included. That includes the range, the median, upper quartile, lower quartile, and interquartile range. And then it'll be interesting to compare the range compared to the interquartile range and just see how those compare. All right, next one. So in your homework, this is what you would be given. You would be given this set of data, and there are great examples in the book. I just didn't copy them because I wanted you to have one more example besides what's in the book. But if you have any questions, the examples in the book are very good references. And so they would say, find the measures of variation. Well, to know how to start that process, step 1 would be to order all that data from least to greatest. So I rearranged the data from least to greatest. And then as you can see, step 1 would be then to find the regular, just the range. Remember, that was one of the measures of variation listed on the previous slide. So you would take the highest data minus the lowest data and get the range. So the difference between the highest grocery and the lowest food at the grocery store was $3.15, or at least not in the store, but what we bought. And then let's continue. Next, you would find all the measures of variation by putting, well, where's the middle of the bottom half of my data, and which one's the middle of the top half of my data. And in your homework, you won't always have 7 data points, but this made it convenient for our slide just to say the middle of the bottom, the middle of the top. And then the last measure of variation you'll be asked to find is the interquartile range, which again is the upper quartile subtract the lower quartile. And then we see that 50% have a range of $2.17. And I know this isn't a lot of data to compare, but we could easily, if there was more data, we could say, oops, I don't know why that's saying. We could say the bottom fourth was this amount and the top fourth was this amount. Of course, that's more effective if we have more data. All right, and then lastly, in your homework, you'll be asked to describe the previous data. And here is just a sample. You'd say, the price of groceries ranged from $1.25 to $4.40. Half of the groceries were less than $2.89 is often a good reference to talk about your median. And then even for our homework, even if you just pick one of the quartiles, I picked the upper quartile. 1/4 of the groceries were $3.66 or more. And then that's it. I know that was only one example, but like I said, when we work in class, I'll help you, or there are other examples in the book if you're absent that day. And great job taking good cornell notes.